everyone. My name is Charlotte and I work in the Student and Education, Equity, Diversity and Inclusion team. And we run things like these Succeed sessions for you. We do lots of other things. You might see our team around on campus every now and then. So do say hello if you see us. Obviously, we can't see you at the moment, but if you do see us, give us a wave. So this session is around some of those practical things. That sometimes get lost in emails. We will have sent you some of this information elsewhere, but sometimes it's just nice to be able to have someone tell you what's going on. So this session is all about those real practical things. Where's my timetable? What's my email? And some of the jargon that we use at the university as well. So this is what we're going to be covering, and I will be joined by Lynn, who's one of our student ambassadors shortly. And they'll be chipping in and telling you about experiences that they've had too. So in this session, we will be looking at sort of things like, where do I find my email or my timetable? How do I find all of that? We've got useful apps that you might want to download before you start. And a lot of these you can download before you even get to Leicester if you haven't moved here already, or even sort of been on campus or anything like that. Like I said, jargon busting. We use so many things, even things like, registration. What does that even mean? And I think, we will do a shout out if you're finding things that you're like, what does this mean? This is a really good place to let us know what you want to know about, so we can hopefully help you decipher some of the jargon we have at university. And yeah, timetable busting. So once we found your timetable, what might be in it? How does it show it? What does it even mean when I'm looking at it? So we will start with the most important thing, I feel, for when you get to university: Wi-Fi. So basically, what Wi-Fi is there? So we have EduRoam. Now, EduRoam is a very, very wide ranging Wi-Fi system. If you might have been at an FE college before you've come to university, and if you have, you might already know about EduRoam. So EduRoam is at actually every university in the UK, some universities abroad as well, and actually in a lot of hospitals. So if you find yourself, fingers crossed, don't find yourself in A&E for any reason, but if you do, you will find that actually a lot of teaching hospitals will have EduRoam as well, so you get free Wi-Fi. It's very useful. So when you get to university, when you get onto campus, because to get it set up, it's best to be on campus. It's much easier. Or if you see it when you're sort of like out and about and you think, oh yeah, there's EduRoam. If you try and log on to it, these are the instructions basically. So if you pop onto, you can go to cat.eduroam.org, and it will give you all the instructions on how to install it. And then you just need to, it says install, basically it's just getting you logged on. Once you're logged on, you will need to, you can just update your username and your password and everything, and it's all on there. So you will need your full university email address, which means if you've completed your online registration, you will get your full university email address, and it will be a username, which might be your initials and then some numbers, and that'll be at student.le.ac.uk. And that's a really useful thing to know generally, because that is your email address that everyone will be sending things to as well. So if you're trying to sign up for something and you want to use your university email address, then that is how that works. So it might be abc123 at student.le.ac.uk. So make sure that is something that you're going to need quite a lot of. So make sure that you have that written down somewhere. After a while, you'll know it. You will just know it. And like I said, it's usually all your initials and a number. So that number will stay with you, and that's your email address all the way through your university sort of career, and your registration with us. So that shouldn't change. It should be the same one. But EduRoam is the most amazing sort of thing to be able to get onto. So if you get stuck trying to log on, if you're on campus and you think, I can't get my phone to connect, or I can't get my laptop to connect, if you go to the library, there is an IT help desk there as well, and they will help you log on if you get a bit stuck with that. We do also have on campus the cloud. So just in case there's, you think, actually, I just want to pop on and I've not registered yet, you have got the cloud. So there is free Wi-Fi all over campus, basically. Eduroam also covers our halls of residence, so if you are there, and like I said, other universities. So if you're out and about in Leicester and you think, you know, oh, I need a bit of Wi-Fi, if you happen to be near a university building, even if it is not the University of Leicester, then you should get your Eduroam as well. So yeah, Wi-Fi, almost like the most important thing you can have. That's the one you want to get onto to start with. And yeah, and don't forget that help desk. So on to sort of what is next, these apps that we have got. Now this website, the remote.le.ac.uk, takes you to the remote access page, which has got this list of all of these apps and things you might need when you're with us. So when it comes down to it, you will be asked to do multi-factor authentication, which is extra security when accessing your IT account. It can be a little bit cumbersome, but do sign up for it, because when you actually get onto everything and logging in, it's going to be sort of the most, make sure that everything is secure. Now, one thing I would say, once you've set up your all your information and you've set up your online registration, do not share your password. So sometimes you might get emails, sometimes you might get phishing emails, people saying, oh, I can help you do this, we'll give you money off this, just give us your password. Don't do that. If you do find you're getting emails asking you to share personal information like that, you can report those to our IT team as well. Or if you're not sure, if you're like, is this authentic? Is it not? You can send it to them and say, you know, can you just check this for me? Because I don't want to share anything I shouldn't be sharing. But you should not be sharing your password with anyone. We have had a few instances of that in the past, so we just want to make sure that that's not going to happen. But all of these apps that we have on the sort of like on our remote access, and they're either links to web pages or links to apps. So we have university email. It's a nice, easy one to get onto. It will make sure that you can get in there. So it'll ask you to log in. Blackboard, which is our virtual learning environment. That will basically take you to the Blackboard page. So that's a really useful link as well. I mean, I would say bookmark this page itself. Your remote desktop. Now this one, you think, you know, oh, what do I need that for? But if you log on to a computer at the university, it takes you into sort of your profile on that computer. Everything that you have on that is backed up to the university sort of backup systems. I'm not a computer scientist myself, so I'm not entirely sure how that works, but essentially they look after all of that backing up, making sure it's like, it is cloud-based, so it's on the cloud. And being able to sort of like, you can save things there. So you can save your work onto it. You can access that through your remote desktop anywhere you are. So I would really recommend making sure that you're using that remote desktop, especially if you're saving work, because if your computer crashes and you think, oh no, I've lost everything, actually, if it's backed up with the university system, that's our problem, really, rather than your problem. So if your computer crashes, you can access it from another computer. Microsoft 365, again, that's a lot of different programs and things like that you can use. My Files, that's the backup that where you can save your files onto that remote desktop. My Student Record, which is everything about you. So if you've done your online registration, My Student Record is basically it gets you back into that so that you can update it if you have a change in circumstances. Maybe you've got a new address and you want to put that in. You can update all your things through there as well, and even sort of see your grades and your progress on there too. My Careers, which links you to our careers service. So no matter where you are, you'll be able to log in, book an appointment with them. There'll be much more information about sort of like what they do and all of that, but you can access them there. If you are a postgraduate research student doing a PhD, My PGR, which sort of manages your progress, everything you need to know about your postgrad studies and your PhD in there as well. And then My Workspace, which is a link to our intranet pages. Now, I've heard from students that not many students use the sort of SharePoint and intranet pages, but I would recommend it's a good place to find a lot of information if you get stuck. So this is where everything lives, basically. So these are the quick links to how to find everything. Now, when it comes down to actually sort of getting on there, your timetable, this most important thing, where is my timetable? It's going to be in your email. So that is going to be in the calendar of your email itself. So that link, the university email, that takes you to email and your calendar. Now, your timetables are, unless you're starting on sort of one of the earlier courses like medicine, or even say if you're doing PGCE or an education course, you might start a bit earlier than sort of the, I think it's 23rd this year, 23rd of September. You might already have your information in that calendar now. Everyone else, it might be around the 12th of September that you're going to start seeing information go in there. So there will be a lot of things being populated in. It won't all be there at first thing, but you should start to see it populating and you get an idea of what you've got when and things like that. But we'll go into that a bit more detail later on. So we have another app called My UOL, which I think you can get to off that remote access page as well. My UOL has more links to everything else, basically. So it's an app itself, so you can download that onto your phone. There is a desktop version as well, and that basically has so much information in. So it's got all the links directly to your timetable, my student record, things like giving feedback to us. Now, finding a PC is a very useful one as well. So if you are looking to work on campus and you think, yeah, I've got my laptop, but actually I think I want to log on to, say, a bigger screen, go into one of the computer rooms and use the resources there. This is where you're going to not have to walk around campus to find that PC. So you'll be able to sort of go on there and it will tell you if there are PCs available in some of the rooms that we have available. So for example, the library has a lot of computers available. It could be that one of the rooms has been booked out by someone, or it could be that one of the, or like, it's just busy, and it should give you a color code as to how busy it is. So if there's not many people in there, it'll tell you it's green and you'll be able to go in and find a computer easily. So if you want to just help save you wandering around thinking, where can I find a computer? It's going to tell you, which is really handy, especially so you might just not want to waste too much time, wandering around looking for it, and you want to just go and work. You've got something in your head, you want to go and do it. Tells you about your library loans. A few years ago, I shared mine on this, and I was in the middle of doing my PhD, and I showed everyone how many books I had out of the library. There were so many. I don't have that many, but I don't have any books out of the library at the moment, so there's no point in me showing you that one this time. But it will tell you how many books you've got, and if any of them are due back. Little tip: we don't necessarily have return dates on our books, so basically you can take a book out, and then if somebody else requests it, you'll get an email saying somebody's requested it, and I can get about 2 weeks to take it back. So that's quite nice. You only get a fine if you don't take your book back if someone else has requested it. So that one's really handy. The library search, so looking for books online as well, it's a good quick link to that. I use that a lot still, just in work, as well as study, and just looking for books and trying to find what's available. There's a lot of online resources as well, so you don't necessarily need to go into the library. There's a lot of ebooks, there's a lot of journals online, and it's so easy to use. But the library do sessions on that as well. So I would recommend going and having a good look around the library, because it's a brilliant place, but there is a lot online. So it might be you're a distance learner, so you can't get in, but it's all there. And then you've got Twitter feeds and campus maps and things like that. So during Welcome Week, there is campus tours, and it's a really good place to start to sort of start finding your way around and work out what you need to do. So that's My UOL. That is all in one app. It sounds like quite a lot of information, but it is all there. I would recommend downloading that. I've had a lot of feedback from students saying they found it very useful in their first few weeks. Maybe didn't use it so much towards the sort of like the middle of their course, and then sort of went back to it as they needed sort of more resources. So it's a good one to have, and make sure that you've got all of that at your fingertips, basically. So other apps that you will find useful. Let's not forget food and drink. So UPay, and sort of UPay, it used to be called UPay Chili. Don't have a UPay Chili anymore, but UPay Rewards basically you can use UPay rewards on campus in any of our outlets. So if you're buying food and drink on campus, or if you're using the shop, you can use it there as well. The whole university is cashless. So if you don't want to sort of use your debit card or your credit card on campus, you can use the UPay rewards, and you can put basically put money onto it. So it's not sort of like a credit thing. You pay money into it. So if you're on a budget and you think, actually, I'm going to put in, say, £20 for a month, and that's sort of my spending money, that's my coffee money, then you can use that and use your app to do that. So you just tap your app when you get to the till. So it has loyalty points. It's got all sorts of little discounts, things like, buy 6 coffees, get the next one free. That kind of sort of loyalty and other offers as well. So you might get some of the meal deals a little bit cheaper, but there's usually promotions as well, and it keeps you up to date with what's going on. So if you think, that's what I'm going to use to manage my budget when I'm on campus, because sometimes, maybe you just can't resist that little bit of cake. I'm going to put it all on there, and then if I spend it, I've spent it. But that's my cake money, for example. So UPay Rewards is really useful for that. And again, you can download that before you start, before you get here, and then use that as a sort of a way of working out your budget as we go along. We have got as well, I would say sort of like almost like the final app from when you're starting. I think there is another one on that list which you can download. So if you go onto the website, it will show you the download your apps. SafeZone is a really important app, and you might end up using this as part of your course depending on what you're doing. And it is your emergency app for when you're on campus, but also sometimes when you're off campus as well. So this means that if you need first aid for any reason, if you find someone else has hurt themselves and you think, oh, actually, I need some help, you can call first aid. You can call for help. It might be that you're stuck, you're lost in your first few weeks, and you're thinking, what is going on? I'm not sure what's happening here. You can call for help on this app as well. They'll do inquiries, and they will do emergencies as well. And what it does, when you've got it on your phone, if you can activate and say, I am on campus, so you can check in, and it logs where you are on campus, and it tells our security team that there is somebody in that building or in that area. So there's somebody sort of like watching and checking what's going on. And it just means that if you're working late or if you're working on your own, so the library can be quite big, and some people, they like to work very late at night, and it could be that you're sat in the back corner of the library and you think there's not many people around. I'm just going to give myself that peace of mind, and I'm going to check in on the SafeZone app. The library is open 24 hours a day, so the chances of you getting locked in are very low, but it's just almost that little bit of security if you think, I just want someone to know that I'm here. It could be that you're doing lab work. There are some buildings that you can get into out of hours, and so you might find yourself there and you think, I just want someone to know I'm there. So it is very useful. It also covers some areas outside the university, so it covers all of campus. It covers around sort of routes across Victoria Park, which is the big park next to our main campus, and it covers routes down to the hospital. So if you are a healthcare student and you might be on placement, it covers your route back up to the university as well. So you might have parked or walked down from there. So it covers all sorts, and it covers our halls of residence, Brookfield. I'll show you a map of some of these in a moment as well. And all sorts of places. If you go on a field trip, they will set it up so it covers where you are on your field trip. So it might be that you've gone, I think in archaeology, they go to Cyprus and places like that. And so when they go, they'll set it up so that you can log in and check in and say, I'm okay, if you're abroad as well. So SafeZone, again, a very useful one. And you might think, oh, you know what, maybe I don't need that. I'd recommend it. You never know when you find somebody else who might need help, and actually you've got that at your fingertips as well. One more thing I'm going to tell you about sort of like electronics wise is free and discounted computer programs. So we want you to be able to have all the resources at your fingertips while you are studying with us. So you might get yourself a new device, a new iPad or a new laptop to get started. I know a lot of people do go for those. If you've seen any really good discounts, pop them in the chat. Other people do like it. If they're like, oh, I've not bought anything yet, what's out there? I know that there's a lot of places that do student discount. I think Currys do student discount, and so does Apple. So do look around. Make sure you're telling people that this is where you're getting it. I'm going to university. I want to be able to sort of like study most effectively. We do actually have laptops that are on loan as well. So if you think, oh, well, you know, maybe I'm going to leave that, maybe it's a bit much to fork out straight away. I'm going to see how I go. The laptops on campus, you can borrow them, and there's computer rooms everywhere. So you don't need to, but if you do, or if you've already got a laptop, there are discounted computer programs and free ones. So for example, Office, Microsoft Office, it's free, I believe. I was just going to say it's discounted. It's free. It is so useful to be able to just download what you need and use that. So again, if you're going out and buying something and they're like, oh, we're going to sell you the Office programs, like make sure you check what you can get for free first. Things like RefWorks and other referencing systems, referencing programs you can download from the university as well as a student. So anything new you think you might need, and anything you might need for your course. So if you're doing something which involves computer science, SPSS, so if you're doing statistics, maths, psychology, sociology, anything like that, where you might be using SPSS, which is a statistic, again, S is statistical measuring and analysis tools. They will be all through those too. So you should be able to get it free. We're not going to ask you to pay money for computer programs if we're asking you to use them for your course. So it's just really good to know that it's all there. So yeah, double check all of that. I can see Hina putting all of the links into the chat as well. So yeah, do make sure that you are clicking on those. So we're going to move on to jargon busting. Now I've made a quick list. Click on the right bit. There we go. Made a quick list. I want you to take a moment, look through this list, think about if there's anything else that you have seen so far where you're like, what is that? Because I know we put a lot of information into things. We ask you to do stuff and you're like, what does that even mean? So have you found any bits, or are there any of these where you're like, yes, that one, I have no idea what it is. So I'll just give you a moment while I take a sip of my drink to see if you've got anything you want to add in.
Just to give you a heads up, Claire, Charlotte as well, that Lynn's joined us too.
So brilliant. Actually, yeah, Lynn. Can't see Lynn on the screen yet, but Lynn, if you are here and able to introduce yourself, it's a good opportunity to introduce yourself.
Lynn. I'm currently a fourth year medical student and I'm the ambassador helping with today's talk. Yeah. I'm sorry I'm late. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I think out of a lot of our courses, medicine is a very intensive course. It doesn't give you much time to manage things around it, does it? We have just got onto the jargon busting section. So I can see I've made a list of some of the most common things that our students, new words that you might come across. Lynn, can you think of anything that you might have encountered while you are sort of in your journey as being a student that you think, what was that? What was that one when we first started?
No, I think you've got them all.
I think these are the most common ones. Yeah. So I can see someone's already said matriculation and all the question marks, because yeah, that is a tricky one. And in fact, we'll start at the bottom because matriculation has been asked about. So matriculation is basically just a welcome talk. It sounds very posh. It's quite Americanized, I think. But we have matriculation for all our students at the start of their first year. And we welcome them in to come in and have a welcome talk from, usually it's the Vice Chancellor or it's somebody who is very high up in the university. So that will be in your calendar, in your timetable, and it might be down as a welcome talk rather than as matriculation, because they keep changing their mind about what they're going to call it each year. So we talk about it as matriculation, and then it might go in as a welcome talk there as well. seen the question of how do you access your timetable again. I will recap over that towards the end again. We've got mitigating circumstances, which I think again is one of those ones of like, what is that? And that is if you are ill during an assessment time, or if something happens, it could be that something totally unexpected happens and you would like to resubmit or to submit a bit later to have an extension, you can put in for mitigating circumstances. And that basically, is assessed, and then you will have a look and they will give you hopefully give you an extension to allow you that bit of extra time to take into account whatever it is that's happened. So they can't, I think they use mitigating circumstances as the common name for that across the university. I don't think it's called anything different anywhere else. Now, the top few are different names for different types of teaching you might have. Now, I don't think I've got all of them in here, because I think Lynn, definitely on your course, you might have like group sessions and different names for things like that. But essentially, obviously, lectures tend to be large rooms. I don't want to say talked at generally, but they tend to be more one way than two way. It tends to be a lot of information coming at you. They are usually recorded, so you can access them later as well if you're thinking that's a lot of information. I want to rewatch that and just make sure that I've taken it all in. And they are in much larger groups. So if you're on one of our larger courses, I think medicine has like 260 students on it at least. We have business has large groups. You're going to be in a very large lecture theatre. Our largest lecture theatre is in the Bob Burgess building, actually, and I think it's 300 or 400 seats. It is huge. It's quite daunting when you're stood at the front and presenting for people. And then seminars, tutorials, I always think they're pretty similar. It tends to be smaller groups. You might be asked to do some preparation work, to present something to the group or to discuss something in the group, and they tend to be much more sort of a conversational kind of way of learning, rather than necessarily being told what it is that you need to learn. So that's something really key to remember, is that idea that you might have to do some preparation and come with something to do it. Labs, if you're in a lab-based course, then it may be that you are in an actual science lab, or it could be a technical lab of some description, and then you'll be doing your work in there. And then workshops are, again, feel a little less formal. It might be that you're doing some group work, slightly bigger groups than seminars or tutorials, or it might be that you're running through something a little more practical. Do you want to add anything to that, Lynn? Have you got anything else that you think, oh, we have this type of teaching, or a type of teaching that you've experienced?
Not particularly, but perhaps it might be called different things, like the same thing. But give or take, it's teaching with, and it depends on the different amounts of interactivity, I would say. But otherwise, it's covered everything, I think.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, don't always expect us to walk into a room and just have to sit there. It might be that you need to contribute in some way. So do check Blackboard for any of that information about like what might be coming up. It should tell you, even lectures can have pre-reading as well. So it might be that you can get ahead. You might be able to look at slides. There are sessions that you can do around sort of getting the most out of that type of teaching as well. I have got one extra on here, which is office hours. So what is office hours? A lot of personal tutors, so you get assigned a personal tutor when you start university, and they are an academic member of staff who is there to help you through sort of like things. You might have a couple of sessions with them at the start of term, and then you might be able to go in and access their advice as you go through and have some meetings with them. They also have office hours, and a lot of academics have office hours, whether they're your personal tutor or not. So if you think I'm a bit stuck on this reading, or I missed that thing and I want to ask a question, then a lot of academics will have a time when they're going to be sat in their office and you can go and knock on their door. You might even be able to sign up for a good time to go and see them, book an appointment as well. So if you're not around during their office hours, don't panic. Emailing and just saying, is there a chance I can come and chat to you, is always a good way of doing it as well. So office hours, yeah, can be anytime during the week. But most academics will actually have that at the right time. Got another question here, which is, can I have a smiling? This is not quite to do with jargon busting, but at the same time, can I have a smiling picture on my ID or a picture, or does it have to be passport? I would say something formalish. You can smile. You can have a lovely smiling picture, but just remember that's going to be on your ID badge for as long as you're going. I've just looked around and I thought mine's not here, but I have a lovely smiling picture on mine. So don't panic if it's a smiling one as well. So that is jargon. If you have any other jargon, I will come back to the question that's just popped up in the chat in a moment. Then think about that. Lynn, has anything else popped up in your mind while you've been looking at that, or is do you think we've covered all of that on there?
I think we've. Oh, someone else has got a question.
Yeah, someone. So yeah, what's a workshop? So workshops, again, it could be something slightly less formal than sort of someone just telling you what to do. It could be an interactive session. So it might be that you've got a workshop on presenting, and so you might get asked to do stuff in there, and you'll be told if you need to do any preparation. So it might be something which is a little more interactive, or much more interactive than a lecture on that. We will pop a link in the chat about your in-person registration as well. And matriculation, again, is basically just a welcome talk. So basically, if you think about your whole university career, it might start with matriculation, being welcome to the university, and it ends with graduation, when you receive your certificate and you celebrate what you've achieved. So matriculation is the beginning part. Lovely, right. We'll move on. If anything else does come up, pop it in the chat. We will quite happily go back over things and do that. So moving on. This is just a quick overview of the places on campus. So thinking about your timetable. Now, someone did say, like, where is my timetable? Your timetable gets uploaded into your email calendar. We'll go over the links again at the end just to remind you. But essentially, it's all going to go into your Outlook calendar. Actually, a bit of advice, I don't know if you do this, Lynn, but I've heard from a lot of students that what they do is have their email directed to another email so that they can see. So they only have to log into one. But I don't know if that's something you do. It was something that came up not long ago, and I thought, oh, that's quite useful if you work well with sort of a different email, sort of having it all into one.
Not particularly techy, I will admit. I just have the mail app for my own personal emails, and I downloaded the Microsoft Outlook app separately so that I could easily access my emails and my timetable without having to even go through. Because earlier you mentioned there was a MyURL app, which you can access your calendar from, but I found it a little bit annoying to keep re-logging onto with my university account. So I simply got just a separate email app.
That's really good bit of advice then. So yeah, if you think, oh, if you've got to keep logging in, and now we've got the multi-factor authentication, if you just got your Outlook, then it's just going to download everything in there. Quite often with email as well, it comes in focused and non-focused. There might be two tabs, especially in the app. So just be aware that some emails might go into the non-focus, so make sure you check both of those. We will email you a lot. I think that's a big thing. You will get a lot of emails, and some of them you might think, do I need this? Do I not need this? But I'd say definitely make sure that you are reading everything to start with, because you don't want to miss anything. And if you download that the Outlook app, then you've got your calendar in there as well. You could set it so that it reminds you when you need to do things. It's all going to be in there. And so if you're not a medical student starting early, such as education, say PGCE, there's a couple of other courses that start before our big start of term on the 23rd. You might have your calendar already. Everyone else will get theirs around the 12th of September on that. So on the screen at the moment, we have different areas of campus, and this is kind of what we refer to them as. So we have what we refer to as main campus, which is just about anything that is down University Road. So everything is linked through one big road, University Road itself, all the way from So these names will become much more familiar. I mean, if you're from Leicester, you probably know London Road and Welford Road already. But as you get started, you'll realise there are two main roads on either end of University Road. One is Welford Road and one is London Road, and everything is off that or in between it, basically. So main campus is in between those two roads. It's quite long, it can take about 10 minutes to walk across. So if you do have things on either end of the road, then just make sure you've got enough time to walk up and down and get there. Then we've got Freeman's, which is where we have some of our student accommodation. And on the far end, a bit further out, we've got Brookfield. And just past Brookfield, you've got the village. So the village, Brookfield, main campus and Freeman's are all linked with a bus route as well. So there is that bus. If you're in accommodation, you can get around those quite easily. So the reason why I'm sort of introducing that is because we're going to go on to things like room codes. So talking about timetables, once you've got your timetable, it might show up in different ways, but you might find that there is a bit of jargon around room codes and how to find out where you need to be in each building. So we have on the room codes, and this is a bit of a cheat on this. So when you get sort of your information and someone says, oh yes, you need to be in Charles Wilson, second floor, or Charles Wilson, and then it might just have a number. It might say 408. How do you find that? It's like, what is that? So it might say CW 408, and what that links to is the building, so the building code, and then it will give you a room number. Now, room numbers always begin with the number of the floor they are on. So if it's a 3-number code, it's going to be floor number and then the room number. Otherwise, it will start with, it might have a decimal point in. So one thing we don't seem to have consistency on. So in the Sir Bob Burgess building, it might say 2.06. So it'll be second floor, room 06, and that's how the room will be labelled for you. Attenborough Tower goes up to definitely 16 floors, possibly even higher. I think it might be 18. You can see Lynn thinking, how high does it go? And that will start with, so if you've got to go to the 13th floor, say 30, it might say 1316. That's the 13th floor, room 16. But it will be labelled 1316. So you just know which floor you need to go up to first. I'm just trying to think. So the building that Lynn, do you have most of your lessons in GDC, the George Davis Centre? I'm trying to think how the rooms are, they've got a decimal point, haven't they, in that one? Yeah, so I think we're leaning towards that decimal point in the newer buildings, which is quite handy. So you might have like, yeah, again, 2.01, that's your room number. So when you do get your timetable, it might have a code like that, and that is going to tell you where you are. Did you find that easy when you first started, Lynn?
It was okay, but also everyone's lost at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's okay. The other thing to note is that if it's on the ground floor, it starts with 0, which I guess works out eventually, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess if you're coming from abroad, because I know in some countries, as in America in particular, so what I'm thinking of, in America, 1 is the ground floor, 2 is the first floor. We start on 0 and then we go up to 1. So that is a really good point, actually, Lynn. Yeah. So I'll show you what some of the codes might look like when it's in your timetable. I think there's more space in your timetable for describing where things are than it used to be, but you might find some of these are different. So good thing to know as well. Oh, it's a good question about this as well. Are courses typically in one building, or do we need to go to all of these buildings throughout our course? So it depends. It could be that you were in 1 or 2 buildings. It could be that you are spread across campus and you might find yourself in a number of them. You'll probably find you'll start to get a bit of a pattern about where you are. So it doesn't necessarily, you're not necessarily just focused in one building, but you might find that you've got a few bits and pieces. How many buildings were you in, Lynn? That's probably the best one to ask, because you're mostly focused in the George Davis Centre, but you could be somewhere else.
For the most part, we were in the George Davis Centre, but occasionally, if the year group was too large, or if other subjects were using the lecture theatre, we'd go to other ones like Fielding Johnson, or even the Sir Bob Burgess when it was open. But mostly, oh, and we also had the anatomy lab at the Marie Shock building. That was a different bit. But I think most courses end up in different buildings, especially if your building is having renovation work or the heating's gone wrong, you might get evacuated to a different building.
Yeah, we have got a couple of buildings that are closed at the moment, but we've still got plenty of rooms for everyone. So you might find yourself sort of suddenly moved. But I think that bit of advice, everyone is lost at the same time, is probably the best bit of advice on that that you can give. And there's lots of people who'll be happy to help you on campus in your first few weeks, or even like just all through your first term. We have a lot of maps on campus as well. And I think my UOL has got a little campus map on it. So if you're a bit stuck and you're not sure where you're going to be, you can check on that. So the other one to note is BRA, which is Brookfield. Brookfield's got its own set of buildings, and that's about a 15-minute walk away from the main campus, or you can jump on one of the shuttle buses and it will take you around there. So if you're in business, most of your business economics, most of your course will be in Brookfield. You might be on campus a little bit, but you shouldn't be on campus and then suddenly on Brookfield straight afterwards, because you just can't get there in time, basically. And one which isn't on here actually, which if you're a healthcare student, you might find yourself in the Robert Kilpatrick building, which is at the hospital. So just to be aware that one, again, is about, I'd say 15-minute walk, luckily downhill from the university, and you might find yourself down there. So that is how we work out the rooms, and we've got a little map actually. Oh, actually, there's a couple of questions here about typical university day start and end. So teaching can start at 9 o'clock in the morning and usually finishes around 6 o'clock in the evening. You may not, unless you're doing medicine, I also have to put the disclaimer in, you're probably not going to find yourself in sessions for the whole of that time. But it can start, you could have something at 9, we try and avoid this though, and then something at 5. So you might want to find a way, like where you're going to study during the day and things like that. And we don't have teaching on Wednesday afternoons for most courses, because that's when sports take place. So there's lots of sports and activities you can do on a Wednesday afternoon. And we try and make sure that there is time and space to do that as well. And I think the other question I was going to answer is how many days a week will we be on campus? Now, that entirely depends on your course. And I'm going to go with one extreme. Lynn, how many days a week are you on campus at the moment?
So before I was on clinical placement, I was in 5 days a week.
Yeah, so that's one extreme, is your medicine, again, healthcare, so nursing, midwifery, physio, some of the more intensive courses where you might be on teaching and then on placement, you will probably be in every day. Things like, sort of, I'd say the other extreme, you can go for things like history and English, and it might be that you're on, say, it could be 2 or 3 days a week, but it depends on when things are scheduled. So the number of hours that you would have contacts with your tutors might be lower, but you might be expected to do more sort of independent study. So your timetable could vary between these, basically depending on what course you're on. And someone's also said, is it possible to use a lecture room for independent study if lectures are not happening? And the answer to that is yes. So if you find a free room that nobody's in, by all means, use it as study space. But just be aware that somebody might come in and say, oh, actually, we're using this. But yes, we have. I've often wandered in sort of to prepare for something. There's someone in there, and it's absolutely fine. There's lots and lots. We have a session actually later this week on spaces on campus. There's lots of little study spaces as well in different parts of buildings, and you'll probably find your favourite during the sort of like your first few weeks. You'll be like, oh, this is a nice little corner. It's my quiet corner. I can go there between lectures, and you'll find your little space. So yeah, I've got a little campus map here. I've added on buildings that are not on there because it doesn't stretch far enough to include the George Davis Centre or the new Bob Burgess building. But this is main campus. It's nice, I say nice and compact. Some universities are absolutely huge and it takes you ages to get across them. Leicester isn't. It's lovely. Everyone, you start walking across campus and suddenly you see people that you've met in other places on other courses. So University Road across the middle, and then we've got Main Square, which is in between the Fielding Johnson building and the Charles Wilson, and Attenborough and Charles Wilson. It's a lovely centenary square and lots of stuff goes on there. So, but you've got a campus map on my UOL and you'll be able to see all the things on there. And I think the one little bit of advice I will give you on this is that the Peter Williams Lecture Theatre is underneath the back of the library. So if you have that on your calendar for anything, that's where that is, because I think that's the only thing which is a little bit sort of like, well, where's that? How do I get into it? It's quite well signposted, but it is just round the back of everything there. So on your timetable, you might find something that looks like this. Course and module codes. It might be that it then spells out what it is that you're doing, and it's really easy, but just in case you just see something like this on your calendar, I will go through what it actually means. So this one, the first part of it, all of our module codes have letters and then numbers. So you'll start to realise that as you get sort of information through, and you'll be like, oh, that's a course code. So the first thing on there, click on the right thing, is your module code. So this one is a sociology module. It usually starts with the year you're in. If you're an undergrad, if you're postgrad, it might start with a 5. If you're doing PhD, it might start with a 7. So it's your mode of study or your level of study. So that is your module code. What semester it's in. So hopefully we split our year into 2 semesters. First semester is September to January, and the second semester sort of starts beginning of February and finishes in sort of June, July time in the summer. So this will tell you when it is you're going to be taught, whether it's a lecture, a seminar, or a tutorial. So this one's a lecture, so this is LEC. It might say SEM, it might say TUT, it might say lab, it might say something else. You might be like, what is that? Ask someone if you like see something. I think workshop might be WOR. And it will tell you and the number is what number it is in the series. So this one's lecture number 4. And then there might actually be on that topic a number of sessions you need to do. So the O1 just basically just tells you that is number 1 in that little block. So if you see that, that's what it all means. So you know which lecture you're going to, and you can look it up on Blackboard and make sure that you've got the right information. But if you're tracking everything on your calendar, hopefully, you'll be like, right, we did that last week. Now we're going to go on to the next thing. So you should be able to see it quite clearly on Blackboard. You got anything to add on that for Lynn? No? I was going to say it's quite a straightforward one. And finally, this is my final slide on this, printing and scanning. So you have a printing account. It's all linked to your university ID card, and basically you can print from from a PC, from a mobile, anything like that. This website will tell you how to do it, and all you need to do is send it to print, and you don't even need to be on campus. I think this is the best thing. I do this. I live quite close to campus, and I will send something to print from home. Then when I'm on campus, I will go and pick it up. So if I know that I'm heading that way. And you use your ID card to basically scan in and pick it up. It will print it off and it's all there for you. So if you get stuck again, there is also the IT team who can help you with that. It should be absolutely fine. So you can print. It does cost money, unfortunately. I think you get a certain amount of money on your card to start with. I think we start you off. And yeah, if you are like me, you like to print things off so you can read them, then it is absolutely, essential to know how your printing card works. And printers are dotted around each building, so you'll start to notice them as you go around. In the library, if you think, oh, I don't know where the one is in my building, the library has printers sort of on every single floor. Anything to add on that one, Lynn? Did you find that useful?
The way I normally print is that you can email. Each smart printer has an email that you can send your document to. That's the only way I figured out how to do it. It does take a while.
Yeah, it's not quite instant, but yeah, you can email. Essentially, you're going to email it to the system, and then you can go and print it off. I think on that page it does have that email option as well, so that's really useful. Lovely. Right, we are on to the question section. So we're just going to stop the recording.